Hello, Friday Sin here. We're going to be reviewing the high-grade Gundam Barbatos. This is the first model released from the new line Iron-Blooded Orphans. The designation for this series is just going to be HGIBO, so it's going for 5 letters instead of the usual 4. So let's start talking about coloration. I'll always start with coloration. Color is good on this. There are actually some stickers, but it's fairly minimum. So let's go ahead and take a look. Remove its weapon here. So on the leg, you're going to have those pink stickers there. That's 2 different stickers for each one, the small up and down part and the triangle part. A single sticker on the chest, which is a triangle. 2 stickers on the sides of the arms here. And then you're going to have 2 stickers here down on the hips. The black part and the red part are both stickers. That's it. That's actually, the rest is actually all the proper colors. I was afraid when I first saw this model that the yellow might be stickers, but it's not. Every single yellow part is its own piece, which works great. So going into problems with coloration now. The edge frills on the side of the armor shoulders here should be yellow. It is not. So you'll have to paint that yourself, as no stickers come to make that effect for you. Now in some of the earlier artwork, the center of the chest here, the 2 pistons were colored steel gray to kind of offset that. I don't see that on the official painted model, so I'm not sure if that's still the case. There should be extra parts on the backpack, like this part here and underneath these peg-in parts, that are supposed to be colored a darker color. And then on your secondary arm, this piece here should be a lighter steel gray. The same with some coloring up here on the upper arm part of it. So it's not that same perfect coloring that we're used to getting from the high-grade build lines and the Reconquista in G line, where those had minimal stickers for effect parts and generally didn't need to be painted after putting the stickers on because everything matched the proper color. So let's go ahead and talk about articulation. This is the first model, and I would like to say this model will represent what the rest of the series looks like as far as models go, but if you see a lot of the concept art, a lot of those suits are a bit bulkier, and this one's actually fairly light. So we'll go ahead and look at the articulation and hope that the good parts stay the same and the bad parts improve. So starting off with the arms and the legs, of course. So these were the problems where the Reconquista in G series had, and they're somewhat fixed here. So it's a single joint, and you get it to go a little past 90 degrees. So it's pretty good for a single joint. The Reconquista in G were double joints that could, because of armor reasons, only go 90 degrees. This one's a single joint and gets a little bit past that. So maybe farther down the line, some of the other models will have a double joint and we'll get that full 180. The legs are on a double joint, and they do give us not exactly a full 180, but the appearance of a full 180. And so those bend in half nicely, and they kind of sit on themselves. So that's actually a great, I think, very accurate pose there. Hips, again, are the universal slot in. So you can take those out, rotate them around. They can go all the way out, as you can see. Come all the way forward. And of course, not go all the way back, because like most hip skirts, that is fixed in place there. So the shoulders are on the universal ball joint, so of course up, down, side to side. I'm going to go ahead, and we'll get into this later, but I'm going to go ahead and pop that part off. So they stick in there on the usual ball joint. The polycaps, though, swivel up. We've seen this before in the end from the Build Fighters Try series. So that does the same thing. So it doesn't have the forward or back cross body, but you can still rotate them forward just because of the amount of space you have for that there. So the design on these shoulders, because they're not the usual shoulder armor, is two pieces that go together and make a swivel joint, so they can go up and down. And up on top, they have this part that can swivel up all the way like that and works independently, and that's what your shoulder armor clips to. So of course, because of the way this is made, where it's just the two parts and there's only the one connecting part, they can come apart at that joint there, so that can be a minor annoyance, but otherwise they work good. Hands are on the usual ball joint. They're the two-piece hand with the top part cover that we're used to seeing. The feet are sort of your standard ball joint, except the difference here is the ball joint is going up into the body instead of down into the foot like we're used to seeing. So that will cause a problem where you can't necessarily switch out the feet because it's kind of reverse of what we're used to. The feet have some interesting articulation. So they have this front part that can bend up, as you see there. Can also bend all the way down. And you have this white part here that can be pulled up to cover it, so you get this nice pointed toe look to it. And it's on there on a circle, so it can rotate all the way to either side like that. So that's an interesting point of articulation there. So then we come to the body. The body's connected to the torso by a ball joint. We'll go ahead and pull it apart. Ah, it came out. Okay. So the ball joint goes down in there. So again, it's a little bit reversed of what we're used to seeing. So you have the stick there, goes into the polycap, and the polycap pushes down into the hips instead of being pushed up into the body. So this main black part on the body, you have swivel side to side. You don't have any side to side rocking, even with that ball joint. It fits in there pretty tight. But then the whole upward torso can do a back and forward crunch just because it's two parts that swivel there. So that part again is only two parts, doesn't have many connecting areas. So if you do put too much force on it, you can kind of crack those parts open. The head is on your very standard double ball joint, one to the body, one to the head. Good range of motion. It's a bit tight, but yeah, you get the good roll around there. So that pretty much covers the range of articulation. It's nothing new we've really seen there. The feet are a bit different. I don't know if that's going to be standard in this line. I really don't think it will be. So articulation is good. The only downside to it right now are those arms don't do a full 180 bend, but they are enough articulation for any poses you would want to put this model into. So let's go ahead and look at a few other features on this model. So as I showed you, these shoulder armor parts already come off. So then you have them standing there with no shoulder armor, bare shoulders. Looks pretty good like this. I think it changes the whole feel of the model, so it gives you some nice options there. The backpack here, whoa, those parts just came off. I'll get into that in a minute once I pull this off. There we go. Yeah, as you can see, that part just fell off because I was playing with it earlier, so that can pop out, which is a little downside, but if you're not playing with it and doing the ab crunch a lot, it's not going to be an issue. Okay, so the backpack's off. You can get a nice look into his back part there. So he uses the two connectors, but they're not the standard distance apart. So things in this line will probably be able to switch backpacks with each other. In fact, that might be one of the whole gimmicks of the line. But they will not be able to switch backpacks with anything outside of the series because the spacing is too far apart for your standard model universal side-by-side double connector. Okay, we have the backpack back together, so let's go into its one point of articulation. This part lifts up. Now, another thing on the backpack, there should be a white sticker over this gray part so that it has a more universal look to it. But I really like that thruster just being all gray, so I left it out. But so that part swivels up. These parts do come off. So you first off, okay, there we go. So you first off have this black part, which is there to hold your different weapons. So your weapons are, of course, the big katana and the big spiky mace. So these adapters here are designed to hold both. So if you can see in there, they're kind of a rounded clip in the front and a square slot in the back. So you take the handle of the sword and you push it all the way into the back, and it holds on to that pretty good. It's not going to come out very easily. Shake it up. Front part is circulated, so you have these little extra bit of thicker parts on the mace here. So you just pop that into the circle part there on the front, and that holds onto the mace not as well as a sword. You shake it up, it's going to fall out. But it holds it adequately, and it's going to stay in place while it's just sitting there. So the other feature of why these parts seem to come off so easily is you're going to get these two parts here. They're a little bit of a different length. So you're going to clip them into one of the open spots on the bottom part here. And you'll have the two holes on the backpack. And you push it in there. Now right now this doesn't have any function with the model, but when the extra weapon parts come out later, this is how he'll hold the gun. The gun will attach, you'll remove this gray part here, the gun will attach there, and this is how it will swivel down into reach. So the backpack's fairly good. These parts do pop off a little easily. That's a small annoyance, but it's a workaround. So you've already seen the shoulders and the weapons. And those were the two backpack effect parts. So I'll go into his last little feature here. So the last feature that comes with the kit is this extra arm. So with this arm, this is going to be the arm that customized parts go on. So in the manual they show that this is the arm that the hook from the commander's, I think glaze it is, will be going on here. So you just pull off this part. So this upper shield pulls off easily. This bottom part pulls off. So completely separate arm, which is nice. And the way you switch them out is actually, you can probably already guess, fairly simple. You just rip off his arm. And I went the backpack piece again. So yeah, those backpack pieces don't fit in, don't snap in perfectly. So you just switch out the hand between the arms and plug the arm back in. And there you go. Now he's got that gray shielded arm. So even though this is a lower price point and it feels a little flimsier than some of the other Universal Century models, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think because of the way it's designed and we're getting a fairly new feel of lighter mobile suits from this, I think it works quite well. And you might find pictures on Gundam Guy showing that this sort of does have an inner frame. You can strip off all the white parts and leave it just as a gray skeleton. Is this an inner frame in the sense of real grades or master grades? No, not at all. But it is a little cool feature, and there's already one going on about the glaze or the grave. I need to look that up. That will also have that feature. So that's kind of cool. I think they're trying to progress. I don't know if they're trying to progress build quality on high grades and make them a little bit more fun, a little bit more sturdy, or if this is just what this line's going to be like because of the way these suits have to be built. Either way, this is cheaper than the usual high grade. It looks great. Its height stacks up. It's your average Gundam height. So it's not really shorter or bigger than anything else. It's right there in the middle. I think that is all the features we have to show. So this, again, like the most recent line, Wrecking Christian G, that first model really set the tone for what the rest of them were like. They looked great. they built a little bit differently, but they had poor articulation. This one has fairly decent articulation and it builds differently. And so far, you have that frame function in this one, and we see it again in the new suit that's coming out later this month. So hopefully that will be the norm, because so far this is a great suit. Its only downsides are backpack connections, poor articulation on the arms, and shoulder connections are a little loose. Other than that, if you love the look of the suit, then it's definitely a buy. The nitpicks are small things. Everything else on it looks great. I think it poses great. It does great poses. I definitely recommend buying this suit. The small things that I've complained about are small nitpicks and no way affect the enjoyment of the suit. For those that want it painted perfectly, you have a little bit of work ahead, but nothing huge. There's no really big parts that need a lot of detailed work. So this is a great start to this line of series, and I hope the rest of them continue like this. I hope my review helped you guys. Like it, share it around. Have a great one, and I'll see you next time.